Why do Indian immigrants, who make up just about 1% of the U.S. population, now rank among the wealthiest and most successful groups in America? It's a question that puzzles economists, inspires other immigrant communities, and even surprises many Americans who didn't realize just how far this group has come. Let us put this into perspective. The median household income for Indian Americans is nearly double the U.S. average. So how did this happen? What explains this extraordinary success story? It's not luck, and it's not just about coming from a big country like India. The real answer lies in a combination of education, cultural values, strong community networks, and fearless entrepreneurship. These aren't just cliches, they're lived realities that have allowed Indian immigrants to rise from newcomers with heavy accents and little money to some of the most influential leaders in business, medicine, technology, and even politics. In this video, we'll take you on a journey that traces this remarkable rise. We'll look at the history of Indian immigration, from the highly skilled doctors and engineers who arrived after the 1965 Immigration Act to the IT wave of the 1990s and the ambitious second generation leading Fortune 500 companies today. We'll explore the values that drive success, from relentless education to disciplined saving, and we'll examine how family and community networks create an engine of opportunity. By the end, you'll see why Indian immigrants didn't just survive in America, they thrived, and in many ways redefined the American dream itself. Historical context: the immigration waves. The story of Indian immigrants' success in America begins with a major turning point: the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act. Before this law, U.S. immigration policy was heavily restrictive, favoring European migrants and leaving very few slots for Asians. When the doors finally opened, America began actively recruiting highly skilled professionals, particularly in medicine, engineering, and academia. India, with its English-speaking graduates and world-class technical schools, became a natural source. The earliest Indian immigrants were not wealthy, but they were ambitious. Many arrived with little more than a degree and a suitcase. Doctors from Indian medical colleges filled shortages in rural U.S. hospitals. Engineers from IITs found work in NASA, Bell Labs, and growing industries. Professors joined American universities and contributed to scientific research. These pioneers laid the foundation for a community that would steadily expand. Then came the IT boom of the 1990s. With the rise of Silicon Valley and the demand for skilled tech workers, Indian professionals began arriving in waves through the H-1B visa program. Their expertise in software development, computer science, and IT services made them indispensable to American corporations. At the same time, family reunification policies allowed immigrants to bring spouses, parents, and children, transforming isolated individuals into vibrant communities. By the 2000s, Indian Americans were no longer viewed as a small minority struggling to adapt. Instead, they were seen as a model minority, hardworking, well-educated, and financially successful. Of course, the reality was more complex than the stereotype, but the perception reflected a remarkable upward shift in just a few decades. From the first wave of doctors and engineers to the IT professionals who helped power the internet era, each generation of Indian immigrants built upon the struggles and achievements of the previous one. This layered history explains why, today, Indian Americans stand among the most successful groups in the U.S. education obsession. The key to success, if there's one value that unites nearly all Indian immigrant families, it's education. For many Indian parents, academic achievement is not just encouraged, it's expected. The mindset is clear: education is the surest path to stability, respect, and success. Back in India, this culture of academic rigor is deeply ingrained. Families save aggressively to send children to top schools. Competitive exams like those for the IIT's Indian Institutes of Technology or IIM's Indian Institutes of Management are legendary for their difficulty, with acceptance rates even lower than Harvard. Students who succeed in these exams carry with them a work ethic and resilience that translates directly into the American system. When these students arrive in the U.S., they often gravitate towards STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. American universities, especially in the 1980s and 1990s, saw waves of Indian students filling engineering and computer science programs. The pattern hasn't changed much. Indian students remain one of the largest international groups in U.S. universities today. The results speak for themselves. Many of the most influential figures in American business and technology are Indian immigrants who combined their education in India with advanced degrees in the U.S. Think of Satya Nadella, who studied electrical engineering in India before earning his Master's in computer science and later becoming CEO of Microsoft. Or Sundar Pichai, who graduated from IIT Karagar, studied at Stanford, and rose to lead Google and Alphabet. These stories highlight a cycle. Families' push for education gives students achieve, gives careers flourish, gives communities benefit. It's not just individual ambition, it's a cultural system designed to maximize opportunity through learning. For Indian immigrants, education isn't simply about grades, it's about building the foundation for generational success in America, STEM and professional careers. Indian immigrants didn't just study STEM, they turned it into careers that transformed entire industries. Today, Indians are overrepresented in medicine, IT, and engineering relative to their share of the U.S. population. The H-1B visa program played a pivotal role here. Introduced to attract high-skilled workers, it became a gateway for thousands of Indian engineers and IT professionals during the 1990s and 2000s. Many of these workers initially came on temporary contracts but transitioned to permanent residency, building long-term careers in America. Their presence filled critical gaps in Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and corporate America. Medicine is another area where Indian immigrants excel. From rural hospitals in the Midwest to top medical centers in New York, Indian doctors have become a backbone of U.S. healthcare. Many came during earlier waves, when America faced physician shortages. Over time, they established practices, trained future generations, and climbed leadership ladders in major hospitals. The financial impact of these careers has been enormous. High-paying jobs in tech and healthcare translated into rapid upward mobility. Within a generation, many Indian American households achieved six-figure incomes and began investing in real estate, education, and businesses. This is why Indian American families in regions like Silicon Valley often rank among the wealthiest in the nation. Consider this. In Silicon Valley, Indian Americans make up a small percentage of the population but hold a disproportionate share of leadership roles in tech firms. Their professional expertise, coupled with a strong emphasis on hard work and community support, made them indispensable to the U.S. economy. This dominance in STEM and professional fields set the stage for the next big leap: entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship and small businesses. While many Indian immigrants pursued professional careers, others found wealth and stability through entrepreneurship. A striking example is the motel industry. By some estimates, more than 70% of motels in America are owned by Indian Americans, particularly those from the Patel community in Gujarat. This wasn't glamorous work, but it provided steady income and generational wealth. Families often lived in the motels they managed, saving money and eventually expanding into chains. Beyond motels, Indian immigrants also carved out niches in gas stations, convenience stores, and restaurants. These small businesses became stepping stones for financial independence. They allowed families to bypass barriers like accent bias or credential recognition, which sometimes limited professional opportunities. As the community accumulated wealth and confidence, the focus shifted toward high-growth industries like technology and finance. In Silicon Valley, Indian American founders built companies that attracted billions in venture capital. From co-founding Infosys to launching AI startups, Indian entrepreneurs are now at the forefront of innovation. The entrepreneurial spirit didn't just create wealth for individuals, it created ecosystems. Successful founders invested back into the community, funding cultural centers, temples, and scholarships. This cycle of reinvestment helped the community thrive and positioned Indian Americans as a visible force in the broader U.S. economy. A case study worth noting is the story of Infosys co-founders, who not only built a global IT powerhouse, but also paved the way for countless Indian professionals to enter the U.S. tech market. Similarly, newer Indian-led startups in AI and biotech are challenging traditional American dominance, proving that immigrants are not just employees, they're also employers and innovators. Entrepreneurship has been a ladder of success, helping Indian immigrants diversify from traditional roles into leadership and ownership. It reflects the adaptability and risk-taking mindset that defines their American journey. Community and family networks behind every individual success story is a powerful community structure. Indian immigrants didn't climb the ladder alone. They leaned on family and community networks that turned challenges into opportunities. Extended families play a huge role. It's not uncommon for multiple generations to live together, pooling resources for education, mortgages, or business ventures. This collective approach reduces financial risk and accelerates wealth accumulation. While an average American household might struggle with tuition debt, Indian families often share the burden, allowing younger generations to graduate debt-free. Community associations also play a critical role. From regional groups like Telugu, Tamil, or Gujarati associations to professional networks like Thai the Indus Entrepreneurs, these organizations provide mentorship, funding, and networking opportunities. They help newcomers find jobs, start businesses, and integrate socially. The Indian diaspora is also tightly interconnected. Families maintain ties with relatives in India, enabling cross-border investments, remittances, and business collaborations. This transnational link gives Indian Americans unique advantages in navigating both U.S. and Indian markets. Finally, there's a cultural emphasis on resilience. Instead of competing as individuals, many Indian immigrants adopt a "we rise together" mindset. Whether it's rotating credit associations, pooling savings for a motel purchase, or mentoring young graduates, the community functions like a safety net. This sense of collective resilience often contrasts with the more individualistic culture of mainstream America, but it has proven to be a secret weapon, transforming a small immigrant group into one of the most successful communities in the United States. Cultural values, discipline, and sacrifice. One of the most underestimated forces behind Indian American success is cultural discipline. Unlike in many parts of the world where consumerism dominates early, Indian immigrants carry a mindset of saving first, spending later. This saving culture translates into lower consumer debt, higher investments, and a much stronger financial foundation. Many first-generation Indian immigrants willingly worked 12 to 14-hour shifts, whether in hospitals, motels, or gas stations, not for luxury cars or vacations, but to send their kids to the best schools and colleges. Stories abound of parents skipping vacations for years, living in small apartments, or running family businesses late into the night, just so their children could thrive academically and professionally. This culture of sacrifice and delayed gratification is not seen as suffering but as duty. Respect for authority, persistence in education, and prioritizing family success over individual comfort created a pathway for the second generation to leap even further. While the first generation laid the groundwork, the second generation capitalized on those sacrifices, landing in Ivy League universities, Silicon Valley boardrooms, and U.S. Congress halls. The message is clear. Behind every Indian American CEO or doctor, there is often a story of parents who gave up everything so the next generation could soar. Breaking stereotypes and climbing the ladder in the early decades, Indian immigrants were often seen as quiet workers, excelling in technical roles, not staying away from leadership positions. But that stereotype has been shattered. Today, Indian Americans lead some of the most powerful companies in the world. Sundar Pichai at Google, Satya Nadella at Microsoft, Arvind Krishna at IBM, and many more. This didn't come easy. The journey meant overcoming racism, cultural barriers, and visa restrictions that often made career advancement harder. But through resilience and persistence, Indian professionals not only entered the corporate ladder, they climbed to the very top. Beyond the corporate world, Indian Americans are now prominent in academia, government, and politics. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, is of Indian descent. Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador and governor, is another high-profile example. What once seemed improbable Indians in America's highest offices is now a reality. This shift shows that Indian immigrants aren't just participants in the American dream, they're reshaping it, leading it, and redefining it. Wealth beyond salaries, real estate, and investments. High-paying jobs alone don't explain the wealth of Indian immigrants. The bigger picture lies in what they do with that income. Unlike many groups that fall into cycles of debt, Indians often channel their savings into long-term wealth-building strategies. Real estate has been a major focus. From suburban homes to apartment complexes, many Indian families invested early, often pooling money from relatives and friends. Over time, these properties appreciated, creating generational wealth. Stock market participation is another key factor. With higher savings rates, Indian Americans invest in retirement accounts, mutual funds, and equities much earlier than the average household. Community-based investment groups also help reduce risk and share knowledge, further amplifying returns. This long-term focus means that while other communities may spend on immediate lifestyle upgrades, Indian immigrants steadily build assets that grow over decades. The result: their wealth compounds not just for one generation, but for many to come. Challenges and criticisms, of course. Not every Indian immigrant story is a success story. It's important to highlight the challenges and criticisms. Many Indian Americans work in low-income service jobs, from taxi driving to retail. Undocumented immigrants from India also face hardships, often hidden from public view. The community's emphasis on education and success can also create immense pressure on children. Mental health struggles, stress, and the fear of failure are real issues among Indian American youth. The so-called model minority myth paints a picture of universal success, but in reality, it hides disparities within the community. Some critics argue that the narrative of Indian American wealth overlooks systemic inequalities faced by other minority groups. While discipline and education are major factors, immigration policies themselves favored highly skilled Indians, giving them a head start compared to less privileged immigrants. So while Indian Americans as a whole have achieved incredible success, it's not a uniform story. Success came with sacrifices, challenges, and a fair share of struggles along the way, lessons and reflections. What can other immigrant groups and even Americans themselves learn from the Indian American journey? The answer is simple. Success takes discipline, networks, and resilience. Education may open doors, but it's the collective sacrifice, family support, and community investment that build true wealth. The story of Indian immigrants also proves that success doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of decades of persistence, parents working long hours, children studying late into the night, and communities pooling resources to uplift each other. At the same time, the story is also about balance, blending tradition with adaptation. Indian Americans preserved their cultural values of family, savings, and hard work, but they also embraced America's entrepreneurial spirit and opportunities. As one quote famously says, "Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard." The Indian American community embodies this truth, and in doing so, they've become one of the most successful immigrant groups in U.S. history. Call to action, so why did Indian immigrants become so rich in America? The answer lies in a combination of history, education, careers, entrepreneurship, cultural values, and resilience. From the 1965 immigration reforms to the rise of Silicon Valley, from motel owners to Fortune 500 CEOs, their story is one of vision and sacrifice. But here's the key takeaway. Indian immigrants didn't just chase the American dream, they redefined it. They showed that success is not just about opportunity, but about what you do with it. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think is the #1 reason Indian immigrants became so successful in America? Was it education, family networks, or perhaps sheer determination? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And stay tuned, because in the next episode, we'll dive into top 10 Indian entrepreneurs who changed America.